Florida construction is in big, big trouble. Workers are not showing up. We already knew that Florida real estate was in trouble and a big crash is coming. And now this, what is going to happen to Florida real estate? What do you guys think?
Bueno, señores, esto es lo que van a seguir mirando todo este tiempo aquí en la Florida. Vean, construcciones vacías, con unos cuantos trabajadores. Hoy lunes esto debería estar llenísimo de gente allá arriba, especialmente poniéndole el techo a este lugar, ya que eso que ven ahí es madera comprimida, que apenas empiezan a caer los aguaceros, que ya están cayendo, se va a podrir todo eso y se va a poner negro. Vean, todo eso blanco, ese material blanco que ven en las paredes, hace falta en todos estos edificios. ¿Quiénes creen ustedes que hacen este trabajo?
Now, I'm going to put a translator in this video so you can see exactly what he's saying. But guys, look at the construction site. There is nobody out there working that site. Now, we need a little bit more context, of course, to know how long this site has been sitting. But there's no workers. You see the machines. You see the cars over there. You see the framing is up. Everything is up. But it just looks like the project is within idle right now. I don't know. Like I said, we need the time of day, whatever, what day it is. Maybe they're on a pause or maybe they're, on break or something like that. We can all admit, Florida construction is really going through it, and they're targeting construction sites. And it's not just Florida, it's many states around the entire United States. However, when we talk about Florida, guys, a lot of them, this is what they wanted. They don't want immigrant labor. They want, I guess American labor or whatever the case is. A lot of them voted for this. I could never connect the dots. It doesn't make sense. But I got more videos in here that are going to blow your mind. Make sure you hit that like button, hit that subscribe button as well. Let's get to the rest of the video.
With all the immigrants being detained or hiding from construction job sites or any of the manual labor projects that immigrants were doing before all the ICE raids happened, now that they're all gone, where are all the Americans to actually take up and do these jobs? Because in case you forgot, Florida construction especially, there was a lot of claims that immigrants were stealing American jobs, and that once the immigrants were detained and deported out of the country, that Americans could then take back the labor force and start to work. But as I drive around Florida today, I'm noticing a lot of construction sites are still empty, like there's no construction going on. So I'm just wondering, where are all the Americans to do all of the construction jobs that supposedly illegal immigrants were stealing and taking from the American people?
Americans don't want to work in construction, especially if they're not going to be paid, very generously. A lot of people don't want to do it, and when you talk about paying people $25 an hour to work in construction out there in the heat, they're going to do it for the money, but they're not going to go out there and do it for $12 an hour, $10 an hour, minimum wage roles, whereas immigrants would go out there and work as hard as they can. I'm not saying the job itself is not worth paying $25 an hour. That's nowhere near what I'm trying to say. I'm not trying to be a degenerate, but what I will say is, how profitable is a project going to be when you got to pay each individual worker $25 an hour, for example, or whatever? Just throw the number. Let me know in the comment section below, what amount of money would it take for you to go out and do construction? Would you do it for $12 an hour? I'm just throwing a number. I'm just throwing a random number, but I can guarantee you they're not making a ton of money, especially if you're not a specialized role like an electrician or a liner or something like that within the construction. I'm just saying that right now. That's just the reality.
I'm looking at the fact that I've driven past 4 different job sites right now, and there's nobody working on them. I've noticed that farms are starting to close down, yet everybody wants to blame the illegal immigrants and migrant workers for stealing American jobs, but yet where are the Americans?
And also, one more disclaimer, Americans, it's not that we're not picking up the jobs. They are starting to pick up the jobs. However, they're getting rid of people at a super, super high rate, and people are, and specifically the immigrants, they're not coming back to the jobs. The migrants, they're not coming back. They're afraid because of, people trying to get rid of them. I'm not going to say the name. I don't want to get the video censored, but you guys know exactly what I'm saying.
Wow. Where's the people? Silence.
Jeez.
This is all because of the immigration law.
It's Friday, 11:45 a.m. And not one Mexican inside, not one food truck, no music, no tools going.
The Hispanic workforce is pretty much gone out here.
Our workers, the Hispanics, they will be up there. They don't want this to get wet. All those houses are sold.
Wow.
Getting wet more than they have to and getting destroyed by the humidity.
Well, they paid for them already.
Usually used to be worked on every day, day in, day out. Ain't nobody working, not a soul.
Now, this is ridiculous. And guys, when I sit back and think about, you know, the migrants that want to work within these fields, guys, all they want to do is come over here and work and make a better living for their families. If we're talking about, you know, especially as the Trump administration is talking about, oh, they're criminals and they're all these bad things, whatever the case is, if they're criminals, why are you going to the job sites to target them? Why are you going to the farms to target them? Why are you going to these specific areas within the country to target them? Of course, they're not criminals. If they were criminals, you would not be going out here. They're just trying to make a better living for their family and themselves. Now, I had to go back and fact check this myself because the first video did kind of look like AI, and I seen some of these videos, they kind of try to change it up to make it look like, oh, this happened with this time frame, whatever the case is. But I did fact check. This is correct. But you're going to see a lot of this within the media today, guys. And that's why I always go back and fact check. You know, you're going to have people, they're posting biases, especially when you talk about these news stations, these articles. They're going to present misinformation and, you know, they're going to lean to the left and to the right, whatever the case is. And that's why, you know, I'm bringing you guys today's video sponsor, Ground News. I talk a lot on this channel about how media narratives shape public opinion, especially in politics and finance. That's why Ground News has become a tool I use almost daily now. Not just to stay informed, but to actually challenge my own thinking. If you haven't heard of it yet, Ground News is the app that lets you see how a single story is being reported across the political spectrum. You got left, you got the right, international, and everything in between. It pulls coverage from over 50,000 sources globally and gives you the who, what, and why behind each headline. So you're going to go over to ground.news/read, and this will get you 40% off of the Vantage plan. While I was doing research on Epstein, I noticed a lot of the sources were biased. Also, the thing about Ground News is they show it all. Ground News offers many tools that you can use with the Vantage package. For example, on this one here, you can see the bias distribution. It's going to have the left, the center, and the right percentages for this article. You've even got the factuality ratings, which has low to mixed, even high. The ownership, where all of the news is sourced from. You got independent, you got individual, telecom, etc. I honestly didn't expect to use this website as much, but now it's a part of how I prep every single video. And I'm not the only one. It's also been featured by Apple as App of the Day 5 times in 38 countries. If you care about getting the full story, Ground News is the only app I've seen that lays it out clearly, and not just what you're seeing, but what you're not seeing. They're fully independent and subscriber funded, which means no clickbait, no algorithms, and just transparency. Click the link in the description or scan the QR code that I'm gonna put somewhere on the screen here to get 40% off the Vantage plan. That's a plan that I use, and I can tell you it's worth every single penny. Thank you to Ground News for sponsoring us. Let's get to the rest of the video.
I drive by here every single day on my way to work, and I usually see at least 20 people working on this building, like, doing construction. Now, I only see two people.
Wow.
They're building like a little mini.
Actually 4. I count 4. There's one right there at the top right there. But yeah, it's 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. All right. You know, 4 versus the 20 that he say he normally sees. And, you know, it could be an off day. We need a little bit more perspective on this. But, you know, we can just look at it and tell that it's not as efficient as possible.
Clinic or whatever. But there's only 2 people now.
That's crazy.
Do you guys know how lucky you are if you don't, like, if your family doesn't have to worry about, like, getting deported and stuff? Because, like, I just think about my mom and my parents, like, they're out working and they can't stop working, but they're, like, literally living in fear and seeing all these fucking raids happening in downtown where the people just went to work and now they're not going home. They're gonna go to, like, detention centers and, like, you know, like, it just fucking sucks. And everyone who voted for that motherfucker, like, you're a piece of shit and I don't care.
And it's not just Florida, guys. I'm gonna show you right here. Here's a video of Nashville, Tennessee, where they're going out to the site once again and trying to get rid of these people. It makes no sense. But yeah, this whole situation makes no sense to me, and I honestly can't even explain it. I don't even ask why. Like, we're talking about two completely different perspectives, and people really just come on these comment sections, come out and on these interviews and say, yeah, this is what I voted for, even in the midst of, you know, the Epstein files and all the backlash that Trump is receiving at this point. It's crazy what's going on in the country right now. But hey, you let me know what you think about this in the comment section below. Hit the like button, hit the subscribe button as well. I will see you next video. We out. Let's go.